Joining us now on the program, our good friend Major Johnny Polous with the Mississippi Highway Patrol. Major, good to see you as always.
Good to see you, Gerard.
Yes, sir. So I know you have transitioned into a new role.
I have.
At this point, so tell us how that's going.
Well, it's a very exciting time for me and my career in the Highway Patrol. I was very fortunate for Colonel Randy Ginn and Commissioner Sean Tyndall to approach me about this program. Very important program, Gerard. There's a lot of agencies across the country now that are investing in wellness programs for their officers. And these programs are so important. It provides not only support for the officers, but for their families as well. And it also plays an important role in building trust within the communities.
Yeah.
So this Officer Wellness and Resiliency Program that we are implementing is going to be a really positive thing for law enforcement and communities across our state.
Well, I think, Major, when you and I talked back in the summer, I want to say there were some crashes that where some officers came up on a really horrific situation, and I had asked you at that point, what do we do? What does the department do to help them deal and manage through those situations? And I think this is about the time that this started.
Absolutely, and repeated exposure to critical incidents and traumatic events can have long-lasting effects on officers and anyone around them. And that's where, and we're calling this program the 1034 Project.
Yeah.
1034 is a 10 code that we use within the Mississippi Highway Patrol, and it stands for Officer Requesting Backup.
Yeah.
So that's the name of this program. And again, going to situations where an officer is subjected to something traumatic, and there's a number of things, Gerard. It doesn't have to be a crash. It doesn't have to be an investigation that an agent is involved in. There can be a lot of different things that would cause an officer to experience certain things. And this program brings that to light, and we're going to address this and provide the support.
Yeah, and this is something that I want to say, Major, you informed us that you're working with some of the other states, some of the other Highway Patrol.
Absolutely. We're reaching out to state agencies and police departments and sheriff's departments across the country. We're looking at their programs. We want Mississippi to have the best wellness and resiliency program in the country. In order to do that, we have to see how other agencies, what they have in place.
Yeah.
And we're looking at that, and we're fine-tuning our program.
I got you. So have you been administering the program to this point, or are you still putting it together?
So we're in the initial stages. The first thing we're doing, it's called peer support.
Okay.
We're building our peer support team, which will consist of MBI agents. It will consist of state troopers, to where, for example, if we have a critical incident, an officer-involved shooting, a member of the peer support team will respond to that incident to where they can talk to this officer and provide that support and actually extend that support to their families. We've never had that in place before. And, officers like to talk to fellow officers.
Sure.
So that is what we're going to implement. That's the first component. There's 6 components altogether. One of the other components, Gerard, that is going to be very important is the family support. The family support group that we're going to build. These spouses out there and significant others, they're the rock that provides that support when these officers get home. We have to provide resources to them as well.
Sure. Makes total sense. Well, this is I think you're the perfect person to be tapped for that role, and
I appreciate that.
My hat's off to the Colonel and the Commissioner for selecting you in that, and it just seemed to me like it's something that's just needed.
Absolutely.
Big time needed.
Absolutely. And that's, with the blood drive.
Yeah.
With Mississippi Blood Services, Dr. Darcy came to headquarters. We sat down and we discussed this of how we could put bring the 1034 project in with the blood drive, because the holidays, as you well know, we're there. You're going to have a lot of law enforcement officers out there working. And as you well know, the blood supplies are very low.
Yep.
If we have a situation where an officer needs a blood transfusion, we're in a tough spot right now. So the Highway Patrol is going to step up. We're going to do our part. We're going to have these blood drives across the state. We're going to have them in each district. We have 9 districts across the state, and Mississippi Blood Services is going to come. We're going to have troopers donate blood, and then it's going to be open to the public. And so we're hoping that's going to be successful. We have to take care of our own, as Dr. Darcy would say. We have to take care of our own,
Sure.
and that's going to be our mission.
So how did it come about, Major, this partnership with UMMC, with Dr. Darcy and his group?
Dr. Darcy plays an important role with the Mississippi Highway Patrol and the Mississippi Department of Public Safety as well, and he understands the needs, especially when we sat down and talked about the 1034 project with the Wellness and Resiliency Program. And he's like, you know what, we need to tie this in. It's all about taking care of law enforcement.
Yeah.
So it just goes hand in hand.
Yeah. Speaking of taking care of law enforcement, the governor signed something yesterday, right?
Absolutely.
To issue a bonus.
That's correct. That's correct.
I guess it would be state law enforcement, which would include the Mississippi Highway Patrol, $1,000 bonus coming by the end of the year. Is that right?
And it's so appreciated by law enforcement officers across the state with Governor Reeves doing that.
Sure.
The support from Commissioner Tindall and Colonel Ginn. And I can tell you my phone's been ringing off the hook all day long from officers all around the state.
Yeah.
Again, that are appreciative. Their families are appreciative
Sure.
of it. And you see the trend. You see this trend about taking care of law enforcement.
Yeah.
And we have to do that. And I can tell you, when you know that support is there, when you get in that car every day, you put the badge on, you put the gun on, and knowing that you have that support, you know, from all the way from the top. And Mississippi, as you well know, is very supportive of law enforcement. So we feel very appreciative of that.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. And, you know, there's been this defund the police narrative that's kind of been sweeping the country over the last year and a half or so. But it seems like there's been some rethinking of that. We're
Absolutely.
seeing in areas of the country where they're figuring out, you know, law enforcement's a critical aspect of maintaining safety, protecting life, protecting property. It doesn't make sense to reduce those ranks and to ostracize law enforcement. In fact, they're a critical and valuable part of society. We can't have a functioning society without it, honestly.
And it helps with the recruiting process.
Yeah.
You know, whenever, as you know, it's tough. Not a lot of people want to be in law enforcement in today's with society the way it is. But it's things like with the governor, you know, stepping up and doing that yesterday and making that statement to law enforcement officers across this country and their families, because he mentioned the families yesterday, and that is huge. That tells you the commitment that is there to provide these resources and to let law enforcement know you're appreciated.
And the feedback's been positive?
Absolutely.
Good.
It's been great.
So how did that come about? Do you know what the genesis of that was?
I can tell you the leadership that is at the Mississippi Department of Public Safety, Commissioner Tindall, Colonel Ginn, and working with the governor, you know, they know what is the right thing to do. And it was very obvious when that happened yesterday.
Speaking of recruiting, how's that going?
Well, you know, Captain Chris Turnipseed is of the recruiting division and does an outstanding job. The recruiters are out there as we speak trying to get, you know, applications. There'll be some information coming forward here in the future, but it's looking very promising for a trooper school, which we will have, to get these numbers up to where we can provide that support to the people of Mississippi.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear. I know you guys were and should be very proud of the class that graduated last year. I think we had perhaps you and the colonel on right after that happened.
Right.
And there's also, we noted in that class, there was at least a couple of legacies, I believe, right, where they were graduating and their parents.
And you know, I have a little bit of experience with that. There's no more. I mean, you're so proud to and concerned at the same time. I have to put that in there. But to see your son or daughter walk across that stage and want to take that responsibility of being a Mississippi State Trooper and serving the people of Mississippi.
Well, I can tell you, you know, from our perspective, we are so appreciative and so respectful and so grateful for the great men and women of the Mississippi Highway Patrol, Department of Public Safety, and all the great work that you guys do. And we wish you the happiest, the safest, the healthiest, the best of holidays.
And we appreciate that, and we appreciate the support from SuperTalk. That's always a given.
You got it. Appreciate it, Major.
Thank you.
Major Johnny Polous has been our guest. We thank him so much for coming on. We'll step aside for a break right here. When we come